Hey guys, I hope you're doing good, and I welcome you to the 8th episode of the Dadaxi podcast. I'm really happy that you're here with me today again. And sometimes I feel a little bit guilty because there would be so many things to talk about, like the wars and the people suffering from them and all that stuff. And I really don't want to appear ignorant or anything. But to me, it's more that right now these things happen in a very public stage, on a very public stage. And they happen all the time. It's not like they are new. Like genocide happens. It just wasn't on a public stage. So part of me is like, I don't necessarily feel that I need to give my artistic space to these subjects, because my artistic space is, as I said in the episodes before, about spirituality as a political tool. Spirituality and the spiritual path as a tool towards a future where war is obsolete. And I know it sounds very unicorn, fluffy, puffy when I say it like that, but it's actually absolutely not. It's the revolution that comes from the inside, where each of us finds the courage to dance with their own shadows, understand that each and every one of us carries demons within. We all have the capacity to hate when we have the capacity to love. And oftentimes when humans hate, it's because they were in a hateful environment for a too long time. So it's the environment that shapes us. It's the environment that makes us a depressed person or a positive person. It's how we were treated as children, how the society was treated that we grew up as a part of, and so on. All of these things form us so deeply. So the best way to start a revolution is to start spaces and communities where people belong, where people feel home, where people feel understood. And I really hope that the listeners of this podcast, they feel like they belong a little bit when they listen to me and my weird stories, and that I can nourish that feeling within that, hey, you're absolutely okay the way you are, and you're not only okay, but you're super cool the way you are. And there's not really something to work on. Actually, the only thing that there is to work on is the thought that we always have to work on something, because nobody lost their essence in the Matrix. We just got very strongly conditioned. Yeah, and I believe that the best way to get out of these conditionings is not necessarily to talk about them and to stay in that loop of trauma and trauma-informed and all of these things. I mean, it's beautiful. I think it's nice that the world is finally talking about these things, but I think it's just another loophole to follow all these IG accounts on these subjects. I think the best way is to understand, okay, that's something I need because I'm right here, right now. Yeah, of course, it's interesting to the mind to understand where something is coming from. But that's what I cover to a great extent in my book, Being Human, a Travel Guide, is that as long as we're always looking for who caused it, what caused it, we're not being with what is. We're still being in the past, somehow thinking that this shouldn't have happened. And that's just not true. Because if it shouldn't have happened, it wouldn't have happened. So it happened. So by looking back and thinking, oh yeah, maybe that caused it and that caused it, it can give us great clarity on where we come from or why we resonate with certain people and places that maybe are not even that healthy for us. But in the end, it's way more about who did I become because of that? Did I become a depressed person because I was living in an environment that suppressed me as a child. A lot of depressed people lived in environments where they got suppressed, where they were not allowed to express themselves freely. Either they were beaten up or they were manipulated emotionally by their parents, or like it can go way more subtle than these examples. And again, here, our parents did their best to whatever extent that was possible, yeah? And not all of it was good, not all of it was bad, and in the end, it was all a gift, you know? You come here, you get the gift of this physical body that's a vessel that will carry your spirit through the earthly dimension, and with this vessel come certain cracks, and come certain patterns that form the vessel that are very beautiful, you know, and just being with, okay, this is who I am. I think I have a lot of fear of being seen, for example. Let's take that as an example. Now I can go back and I can blame anyone that didn't see me when I was a child, so I never learned how to really see myself, and that's why it doesn't feel safe to be seen by the world. As long as I stay in the past, I still believe that I should never have become someone that doesn't want to be seen. But actually that was the plan all along. I wanted to learn to like to be seen. So my gift with this vessel was to first become somebody that doesn't feel safe being seen. Which I know sounds ridiculous to a lot of people because I'm very visible in some spaces, but then I'm not very visible in others. So that's just a minor example. And it's not like I can just think, oh yeah, I don't have to be that anymore and then I will not be it anymore. But that's where certain therapeutic and especially shamanic tools come in, where we can find certain archetypes within ourselves and within our psyche that we can really work with, that we can understand, okay, maybe it's my inner girl that's really scared to be seen because she got beaten up a lot, like not with fists but with words. And from this girl grew a woman that is so scared to be seen that she kind of handed it all over to the inner male. And this inner male thinks he got it all right, when actually he's not able to listen to the other parts of the inside. So that's why I know it's a bit abstract right here, right now, but that's one of the exercises I do a lot when I work with my clients. And I deepened the knowledge on that in a workshop recently that I did with another curandera, which I really like. And it's just so interesting how when I feel like, okay, I have this issue that I'm afraid to be seen or to be visible in this world. For sure, it's interesting to understand that maybe you've been tortured before for being seen, or you've been burned before for being seen. But that's not necessarily where this has to go. It has to go inwardly. Where are parts of me within myself that do not want to be seen by the other parts that are within myself? And why do they not want to be seen? How, and this is where other shamanic tools come in, how can I nurture these inner aspects of myself? Because we all have them, you know. We all have an inner adult male and an inner adult female and an inner child male and an inner child female as an archetype. And depending on how the family system was that we grew up in, but also the family system that our parents grew up in and our grandparents grew up in, depending on that, this system will be built quite literally the same like the one we grew up in within ourselves, even if we didn't have any siblings. It's really interesting, but it's like too big of a subject to cover in a podcast. Anyways, so actually I just said all of this as kind of an introduction to what I wanted to cover today as a topic. And what I wanted to cover today as a topic is the divine feminine and the divine masculine that everyone seems to be talking about these days. Because I just wanted to share my take on it, because I think it's strongly related to these inner archetypes that I was just talking about. So I talked more extensively already before about the male and the female being like kind of the symbol of yin and yang. And yin and yang have like male and female attributes as well. And the thing is that now we come out of a time where the inner adult masculine had to deal with a lot of things. Yeah, like let's say now we call it patriarchy, but the system that was built up mostly by the inner adult male perspective, because that's the one we need to really like face harsh times, like all the wars we had in the past centuries and the Middle Ages where a lot of people died from sickness and hunger. So like the past 1,000 years being a human was hard. And like there were places that still were intact and that still lived in tune with nature. So they had another relation to their suffering and times weren't that bad. But like in Europe, for example, it wasn't that nice, There were the witch hunts and all of these things. Like the church was really dominant and took a lot of money from the poor people, and times were not free. And when you live in these times, there is not a lot of space for sensitivity. There is not a lot of space for expansion and for new ideas, because you're just stuck in survival mode. And all of our ancestors were stuck in that. So it's very natural that a lot of us are still stuck in it, although there is no like really graspable threat anymore. But still we feel, that there could be a danger. And so many people are in survival mode also because of the system, which is just like, we have to understand that the system that we live in was built by people on survival mode. So it's all it can do. And that's why this system will never free us. And this is why this system will always create war again, because it's stuck in survival mode. And so the inner male, which has this very, and here we go with the divine masculine, there is just like two different energies. Yeah, the one is hot, the other one is cold. One is a bit slower but very steady, and the other is a bit faster but not as steady. Yeah, it's more jumpy. That's the female energy, and the more steady one is the male energy. So when you are stuck in survival mode, and I think that's very like natural in a system, in a human system, we start to give more prominence to the inner adult male aspects, the inner adult boy aspect, the inner child male aspect would be more joyful, more inspired. Yeah, and that inner boy is actually very much lost in a lot of people. A lot of people have connection to their inner girl, because it's a very deep topic. I will not be able to cover everything within it, but understanding that both of these energies are kind of like, they are not separate energies. They are qualities that we can embody as an energy. Like, let's take as an example the Hinduist gods and goddesses. They are not different gods. They are different emanations of the same god. Yeah? So Shiva and Parvati are the male and female emanation of the same being. And that's what divine feminine and masculine is all about, that we have a more masculine emanation, which is maybe needed in times where, let's say, you got a drink with your girlfriend and you're on your way back home and the energy is just a bit tense and you feel like maybe somebody could, like, I don't know, attack you or something like that. It's very important to go into the masculine emanation of your energy, because then, like, it's not a perfect protection, but it's a very strong protection. When we go into the masculine emanation, then we're a little bit like Teflon. Yeah, it's a very strong energy. And when we are with friends and when we maybe want to have talks that we are more open and more soft and not, don't have to be as strong and rigid, we maybe want to go more into the female emanation of our energy. Yeah? But it's very important to understand that we all have these emanations, and as long as we don't learn how to use them, they will just come and go as they please, or as we, as a child, most probably taught them to come up and go. Yeah? So oftentimes when people have very strong people-pleasing conditionings, it's also that their inner female comes up in the wrong time. Yeah? Because their inner female energy wants to be seen by the inner male energy. But when this is not happening, because we do not meditate and we do not look into this inner process, we will go, and when another person has this male emanation, we will start to please this emanation because it's our inner female wanting to be seen, actually by our own male emanation. But when this is not happening, it will look for it on the outside. And this is what actually creates a lot of toxic relationships without the people understanding what's happening, because it's the same can happen vice versa. The same can happen in the other direction. So, now this is one aspect. And I said before, this is a huge topic and I will not be able to cover it all in one episode. And it's also like, maybe you want to comment what interested you the most, so I can go a little bit deeper into that subject in the next episode, because there is a comment option, I think, on Spotify to the podcast, and I would be really happy if you comment something. So anyways, what I wanted to point towards is also that in magic, there we have the same thing, that, and when I say magic, I mostly speak of high magic, which is magic that works more with visualization and with the directing of energy, and less with herbs and, physical items. But anyways, even with physical items, there are two paths. So in magic, there is the left-hand path and there is the right-hand path. And the right-hand path would be anything that we at the moment consider spiritual. Yeah? Like, it's very hard to explain the right-hand path in a world that was formed by the right-hand path, because even our system is formed in the right-hand path. So I will do my best for you to understand. I already did an episode on the left-hand path when the podcast was still called Ara the Autistic Alien, but what I'm covering today is a little bit different, so stay with me. So the right-hand path is, let's say you go to a yoga class, and then the teacher will tell you what posture to take, how to breathe, what to do. That's the right-hand path. The right-hand path is somebody who studied it, tells you how you can work with your chi, with your energy, because that's what yoga is about. The same goes for veganism. Veganism tells you what you can eat and what you cannot eat. And that also influences the way your chi works in your body. Yeah? Sports are usually, with most people, learned in the right-hand path. Music is, with most people, learned in the right-hand path. Here are musical notes. Learn how to read them and learn how to write music in these notes. That's the right-hand path. Do this training, build up these muscles, and you will be better at soccer. That's the right-hand path. And as you maybe have already concluded, that's the inner male aspect path. Yeah? That's the inner male aspect path, where things are rigid and they are done in one way for everyone. And this one way is the best way for everyone. And for sure, there are minor edits to this way depending on who you are as a person and so on, but minor. Yeah? That's the right-hand path. And don't get me wrong, I really like the right-hand path. Yeah? It's like, wow, people that walk it, sometimes I envy them because it's so clear. You know, it's like you do A and then comes B and then follows C. And I'm like, wow, this is so logical. My mind would love to walk that path, but it's just not the path I'm on. Like, since I can think, whatever I learned, like whatever I even pass on, I can't really tell you where it came from. So it came from spirit. You know, it's like I do things, like whatever, yeah? Like I do something with my hands and suddenly I understand something. And I have this very deep insight. And nobody told me, yeah, you have to do these many macrame knots so you will have that insight. And from that insight will grow an offer that will assist so many people in a certain aspect in their lives. That's just not what happens. I just do, and from that comes something. Yeah, and I cannot say that it will always be like that. I mean, part of me knows that it will always be like that, but I have no assurance. There is no, I followed this path, so I will most definitely end up there and there. Yeah, I did A and B, so I will end up at C. That's just not how the left-hand path works. The left-hand path is, I start a new sport, and of course, like if it's with a machine or whatever, I will quickly read the manual so I understand which muscles should be trained and anything. But then I just use the machine and I tune into my body and I let my body tell me, on one hand, if it likes the exercise. Like if I listen closely, I understand if it's my ego that just doesn't like to exercise or if it's my body not liking doing something. And for example, my knees don't like to be, and I have very strong legs, so I don't need to train my legs. But like my knees don't like it. So I know that if I would push that, at some point I would have problems with my knees. But then a lot, like my back, for example, loves a lot of exercise, yeah? So it's different from various parts of the body. But I just tune into my body and I feel inside. And it's not, because, you know, and it's not like free willingly. It's not like, like I do it like that because that's the left-hand path. No, that would already be the right-hand path again. I hope you understand that. No, I just start doing it and I do it. And after a while, I understand what I'm doing. That's the left-hand path. It just bypasses rational thinking completely until it's done. And that's sometimes so hard to like follow or to be inside, because in a world that is built on the right-hand path, first of all, it's very hard to sometimes explain what you do to people because it's so far out there for them. And on the other hand, it's like part of you really wants to be on the right-hand path, really wants to do that one training and then, but I know that just it will never happen. I did so many trainings, like I'm a Reiki master, I'm a trance healing medium, I'm an intuitive healer, and so on. But I never called myself that, because as soon as I got the training done, already something else emerged from within myself. So the training was just another tool for my left-hand path being to bypass my rational thinking with something, and then something new emerged. Yeah. So maybe my book is more, and the web app are the results of all the trainings I did, but they are not actually related to the trainings. Yeah, it's very difficult now to sometimes describe it. And the reason I came to this is because I see a lot of advertisement at the moment for a technique that's called neo-emotional release technique. It was invented by a German guy, and I see a lot of these videos, where the energy within the body is really moved, let's say anger or grief or whatever, inside the client, and then it gets expressed, yeah? And I don't know why, but I always felt uncomfortable when I watched these videos. And it's not I do that as a work myself, and I do therapy that does that work to me. So it's not that. And then I realized that I think the main difference is that, again, the way they do it is the right-hand path, yeah? So there is a certain ABC program that will then lead to that release of that emotion. And I like that a lot. I think it's a beautiful healing technique. I didn't undergo it myself, but sure looks valid. But to me, it just felt so weird, because that's totally the opposite approach to what I do when I do sessions with people. Because I'm for sure doing the work, and for sure I start to move energy, but it's not like ABC. It's actually that I'm just with the person, and first of all, we do, let's in the widest sense, it's still a trance healing. We just let flow energy, and then we let the body speak, and we let the body move, and we let the body sing. Everyone gets their own song in my sessions, a little mantra for themselves. And it's just very, how to say, it's not necessarily then, oh, that was grief that left. Sometimes after the session, we both maybe have an epiphany, and sometimes it's very clear what happened. But many times it's just like this, we just let the energies be. Yeah, it's more of being open, and that's what the left-hand path is all about. Just staying open and trusting the process so fully that no matter how hard it is, and no matter how strong it is, and no matter how struggling it might be, you still accept that that's exactly the way it has to be. And you stay open, and you stay open to everything that comes, and at some point it will result, and that's beautiful, in a right-hand path logic. Yeah? You can suddenly draw certain systems from these insights, because the left hand and the right hand are still at the same body, right? They are just two expressions. And the same can also happen from right-hand path. Yeah? Right-hand path teachings can become left-hand by people who just work so intuitively with what they learn that maybe something new gets out of it, or they just really start to trust that flow more. And what I believe when people talk about, the divine feminine and we have to reawaken her and la 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 la, what they are talking about on a magical level. And, like for me, magic is everything. Psychology is magic because it was invented by witches and shamans. Marketing is magic. And marketing makes such a big part of our world that everything is magic. The internet is magic. Everything is magic. I don't see anything that's not magic. Yeah? But humans are magic for sure. So, on a magical level, what we mean by awakening the divine feminine and the divine masculine is actually about walking the left-hand path again. And I'm really sorry, the construction work started again here, so I hope it's still okay to listen, and I'm done very soon. But anyways, so walking the left-hand path, just receiving, trusting the universe that not everything needs to be A, B, C, that's actually not necessarily how nature works. Nature works both ways. If you look at nature has this left-hand path and it has the right-hand path within. It's both. Yeah? So, and we are a form of nature. We are an expression of nature. So, of course, we carry both of these energies within ourselves. And understanding that it all is energy that moves into these directions. And a lot of the outside energy is currently rather adult male because that's the essence that created the system. I think the call for more divine feminine especially is to become wild again, to become Lilith again, to not fit into this system that got so abstract and so unnatural, and trusting the flow of life again versus always staying in the perception that things shouldn't be the way they are, that things should have gone another way, that this is not how it's supposed to be because it's not comfortable. And the funny thing here is as well that we needed that foundation, like in the Western world where we already were broken. We needed that foundation of the masculine to now open up to the energy of the divine feminine, because the divine feminine is much softer. Like that emanation is much softer. It's way more sensitive. That's why our children are so sensitive now. It's not that they're limps or whatever, but they're just, that's evolution. Evolution in progress is that the more safe our environment is, the more our soft sides can emerge. And don't get me wrong, the inner feminine is as much a warrior as she is a soft queen. Yeah, she can be really strong, but within most of us she is not at the moment, because she needed to be buried to survive. And I think the re-emergence of that whole topic has way more to do with us ourselves reclaiming our softness, but also our wildness and our strength in trusting the universe, in trusting the universal flow, which is in the essence feminine. And I think that's what it's all about. It's not so much about all becoming fluffy puffy and I don't know what. And it's not so much about the outside. It's about how can we form a web of peace within the archetypes that are described within ourselves. How is the relation of my inner archetypes towards each other? And how is my relation to these archetypes? Because a lot of times, people that have to prove a lot, they have this thing inside of them where they still want to prove something to their father. many times the father doesn't even live anymore. So it's more about the inner male that kind of became that father. And we still want to prove something to that. And it will never be good enough until we understand what we try to do. Yeah? And it will also, like, no matter how much the world tells us that we are the best, and no matter how many Oscars we win, as long as our inner adult male is not at peace with our inner adult female, for example, and as long as they are not connected, they are not speaking to each other, nothing on the outside will ever be enough to prove to us that we are valid, or that we belong, or that we are good enough, or that we are worthy. No matter how many billions we have in our bank accounts, it's all about this inner relation towards ourselves, towards what we do, towards what we did. And with how much love and peace we can look at these things. And it's not always the same. Like sometimes there is more love and peace in that field, and sometimes less. There again, it depends on what happens on the outside as well. But I believe that, like even the war, although I don't want to cover too much of it, but when you look at the war, it's pretty much that like female against male, no? Like with Israel being that male force, very highly militarized with like a lot of weapons, a lot of young men that are willing to go to war. And then we have Palestine that is like hungered out already, that never had money, that's very, let's say, weak, but still has a very strong defense mechanism because it had to go underground. And that's why, like, sometimes I have to laugh when people talk about the divine feminine as being all soft and, like unicorny and cute and all of that, because it's not. There is a lot of pain buried there. And this pain can also result in rage. Yeah, so that's when people like women can freak out like very, very crazily. I know that because I'm one of them. And it's because of that, because there is like a lot of buried rage in that inner female. So it's not like just an easy walk to make peace between those things, but as I said, there are a lot of shamanic tools that can help with that. So yeah, I think I'll end this episode here. I really hope it made sense to you and that you were able to take something away for you or your own life. Of course, like, take away whatever resonates and leave the rest. And I look forward to speak to you again next week. Have a beautiful weekend ahead, and I send much love. Bye bye.